a good famous market research story, right? The Chevy Nova. Chevy Nova sells a ton of cars in the U.S., tanks in Mexico. They couldn't figure it out. Well, no one wants to buy a car, the Chevy Nova. The Chevy doesn't go. That's what it means in Spanish. No one figured that out, right? Had they done some market research in Mexico, they could have saved themselves tens of millions of dollars. Just rebranding, renaming the car, as opposed to let's buy the don't go. The Chevy doesn't go.
You're listening to Stories from the Top, an inside guide to better business development.
All right, we're back with Jim Jacobs of Focus Insight. Jim, once again, why don't you just give us a little bit of an introduction to who you are for people who might not know you?
Absolutely. My name is Jim Jacobs. I am the CEO of Focus Insight. So, avid hockey coach, entrepreneur organization. We're a two-time Inc. 5000 company, and we are a market research firm.
Awesome. So, this episode, we're going to be diving into market research. So just give us an overview. What is market research?
We help growth companies who want insights into their products or services get bigger and better. So we have clients ranging from Fortune 500s to startup companies who need people's opinions, which are the most important thing, right? Your customers. What do they want from your product? What don't they like about your product? What do they like about your service? What don't they like about your service? So for example, we're helping, AI is the latest craze. We're helping some of the big companies with human feedback for large language models, so they can help detect sarcasm and whatnot. And we're doing studies where, hey, we need 50 people to give us opinions on this, hot dogs or Oscar Mayer, whatever it is. So you supply the project, we supply the people. That's what we do.
So why is this type of research so important for businesses?
Well, it's amazing because a lot of people have not heard of it, but market research, huge, multi-billion-dollar worldwide industry. Because think about it, we did a study for a hair product one time, what works in Florida. The humidity is much different than it is in Arizona, right? Much different than Minnesota. So it's almost like they have to have regional packaging depending on where the product is. I would never think of that, right? So that's where kind of the insights comes in. So every company ends up needing it. We did one big study one time where a certain cat food was formulated a certain way, and a certain kitty litter, and it stuck to the polymer would stick to the cat's fur. So they had to figure out okay, here's two brands, this one or this one, which one should we use? And we had to ship it. This is like the week after Christmas. It was wild. So we had to ship out 50 boxes of kitty litter, and that was a crazy project. It was, my whole garage was filled, but.
So people were testing out the product.
Yeah, so we needed people nationwide to test out this product with their cat because they had a huge advertising campaign. And they had millions of dollars of pre-purchased media for this advertising campaign. And the last thing they wanted was kitty litter that stuck to fur. So, so we were able to figure that out.
So what type of business usually needs market research the most? Is it always products or is it services too?
No, it's both. It's both. I mean, we do, I feel like the majority of things are service-based businesses now, but, for example, we've done a lot of financial services work. Are people comfortable getting financial advice from an AI robot? Some younger people are, older people aren't. It's a very relationship-driven business. For example, a big project we did years ago was with HBO was the end client. And they were wondering, their big problem was, why are we losing market share to Netflix? We have all these libraries, and through all the people we recruited, and you're talking different demographics, people who have cable, who don't, people who stream, that all came into HBO Max. So it was kind of great. One day in the Wall Street Journal, they're like, HBX, we've done extensive market research testing. Well, we were not mentioned, but we did all that testing. So that was pretty cool to see.
Do you guys have any consultation side to the results of your stuff, or is it really just here's the results?
Well, we usually find the people for it, but we can do the consultation, and pretty much it's pretty easy nowadays. You get transcripts and you kind of figure out what people are saying, and you give them findings and suggestions.
So at what point should a company be conducting research? Is it always in the beginning, or is it like throughout the product life cycle?
Well, you want to spend a good famous market research story, right? The Chevy Nova. Okay, Chevy Nova sells a ton of cars in the U.S., tanks in Mexico. They couldn't figure it out. Well, no one wants to buy a car, Chevy Nova. The Chevy doesn't go. That's what it means in Spanish, right? No one figured that out, right? So had they done some market research in Mexico, they could have saved themselves tens of millions of dollars, right? Just rebranding, renaming the car, as opposed to let's buy the don't go. The Chevy doesn't go, right? So
That's hilarious.
that's a crazy story. So there's all sorts of different stories about that. So you'll see companies. For example, we're doing one, a friend of mine right now, hair products, wig products, and they want to get on QVC. So QVC needs to see a full market research study in order to get on their air. So we're helping them with that.
Yeah, so the Chevy Nova is an awesome example of what happened, like the negative side effect of not doing your research. Do you have any other examples of like a company that did market research and it proved to be very helpful for their launch?
Oh, for sure. I mean, there are countless stories. One of the things we did that was pretty neat was we've done studies for Roblox. Okay, Roblox is like a kids game where we had to recruit people in a library in San Francisco, and it was a $1 billion company now. Private equity people were there and like looking at this when it was a kind of a smaller type of app, and they wanted to see how kids reacted to it before they invested money, right? So we recruited kids to a library in San Francisco where they played with Roblox with the parents there, and they're like, okay, we're going to sink some serious money to this. So we've done that type of work. Other success stories, I mean, there's so many where you kind of go in and you think one thing. Like, one of the famous market research studies is Apple. Apple had a focus group, and they asked everyone, which iPod would you like? It was when they had iPods that just did music. And everyone said yellow. Yellow was the most predominant one they wanted, they said. And when they left, they got a chance to take a free iPod, and no one took the yellow one. Everyone took the white one. So... So at any rate, they're like, why were they don't want a yellow one, they want a white one, because they all took the white one. So they took that feedback more than what they said. So there's tons of different stories like that. But everything from different product offerings and different bundles and things like that. Yeah, I mean that's why market research is such a huge industry. I mean, I was just at the conference last week in Quirks in New York City, and huge show. A lot of major brands were there. We've had discovery calls the past 2 weeks just with brands that want to use us. Like, okay, we have this issue. We have a tariff issue. Okay, we have a tariff issue. So can we repackage our product this way? Can we rebundle it this way? Would people, would they be likely to buy, not likely to buy? So it's all things like that that we deal with.
Is it like a common practice to, I don't want to say be manipulative, but say like, oh, we want to test how people enjoy these chairs. Let's bring them in for a completely different thing to test these playing cards or something, and then just see how they react to the chairs. Is that something you guys like?
We haven't seen that too much. I mean, pretty much you keep the subject somewhat closed until they get there in the room, because you want candid reactions. You don't want people studying for the stuff. You want to see what they think.
Yeah. Is there anything you guys do to like preempt people's biases coming in when they're reviewing something?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we do. Like, we screen them. We make sure, like, for example, if we're doing a political study and you want undecided voters, you better make sure you don't have someone all the way on the left or all the way on the right. You really have to screen them and make sure they are undecided voters, right? Same thing with everyone. Like if we're doing a study for I don't know, Capitol Grill Steakhouse, you can't bring in a bunch of vegetarians, like, well, what are you gonna do with a steakhouse? So yeah, that's what we do. That's our service, and that's how we've become successful, because we have, we use AI, but we use humans to verify, screen people, make sure they're the right people, the right fit. Because you talk about having the right people on your team is the same exact thing. You want the right people in your study. You want people where you can go back with those insights and be like, okay, now we know. Like, before you're spending tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or maybe even millions launching the Chevy Nova, if you got a subsegment of Hispanic and asked them what they think, they're like, well, I'm not going to buy a car that says no go. Like, that's all you needed was that one sentence, and that could have saved you 6 figures, right?
Right.
So,
Right. So what's like a typical sample size for a campaign like this? Like, is there a minimum threshold?
yeah, I mean, we've done studies from as little as 20, 25 people to as many as 500, So it's really neat because you see how technology changes and how we've done things. Like, we did a study years ago where we shipped out the what are they? The glasses, the virtual reality glasses. I can't think of the company now, but Facebook or Meta ended up buying them 3 months later, or 6 months later. Yeah, Oculus Go.
Yeah.
We shipped it. Everyone loved that study because they would get the free pair of Oculus Go, and then they get paid to do the study. So the end client was blinded, but it was Facebook, and Facebook ended up, going Best Buy 6 months later, and it's like, Oculus Go by Facebook. I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. We did the whole study for that.
You didn't know it was Facebook buying it, or
Right.
it was blinded
Right.
from you guys?
Well, we kind of knew who we knew who it was.
They were trying to keep themselves
But
secret.
but the people in the study didn't know.
Oh, okay. I see,
Okay,
I see.
so that was a perfect example of a company that, and it became a great acquisition for them, and whole new product line. And that's always neat when you walk in and you see something, you're like, oh, cool, I had something to do with this.
Yeah, they're leading the charge in VR and everything now. That's
Yeah,
so
for
cool.
sure.
So it's not uncommon to hear of big companies doing market research campaigns. But what about for small companies? Is this something that's like only for big companies, or do you see small companies doing it as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost more advantageous for small companies. I mean, it depends on their product set and whatnot, but large companies usually have bigger budgets, and every large company was once a small company, right? So, so that is, so when you're looking at growth metrics and what are we missing, what are we not doing, and quite frankly, that's how all these small companies get big, is they find some feature that people want that maybe the big guys don't notice, that they're hearing a pain point, and they solve the pain point, and then they kind of meet a niche in the market. So, I think it's advantageous for all companies to do market research. I mean, I certainly think about it every time we're doing something, using our training and what we're telling our clients, like when we're looking at, should we do this? So let's test it. Let's do this, and let's measure it, and then let's see how it works. So.
Do you ever see companies like putting together market research campaigns on their own versus like hiring a specialized company like yours?
Well, yeah, I mean, there is a growth of where, people try to do it themselves, for sure. And some people work that well, but some people it doesn't, like you have to find certain customers, it's hard because, people who work at the companies are often biased, right? Like you kind of want an outside third person party, because a person who works at the company, maybe they're on the product team, right? The last thing you want is a person who developed the product to be doing the research, because it's their baby. They sometimes they hear the good and they don't hear the bad. So that's what's good about having an independent party do this research, is you kind of get some neutral opinions.
So what industries would you say benefit most from market research?
Oh, wow. I mean, we do a ton. I mean, consumer services, obviously, right? I mean, consumers are so fickle, and, I mean, it's, like think about music, right? You used to buy a record and a CD, and now it's, everything's on the phone, or a streaming service. And I think, we do a lot of technology, a lot of B2B services. So really, what if you sell a product or service, I don't think there's any one area that, like healthcare is humongous. There's always healthcare, a new syringe, a new product. But, I think if I had to pick one, I would just say the consumer segment, because, it's so competitive out there for shelf space and product and whatnot. So.
Gotcha. And what advice would you give to somebody who's just launching a market research campaign for the first time?
Advice would be, talk to a lot of people, and ask a lot of probing questions. Okay. And just sit back and see what they say. And, you want to approach it like you're having a beer at a bar and just chilling out and listening to what they have to say. And you'd be amazed. Your customers will tell you a lot of information, some of which you didn't ask. But that's what you learn being a moderator, is to really elicit some in-depth insights and opinions. And you do that with enough people, you're going to find some things out about your product or your service that you quite frankly didn't know. And it's only going to make you more money in the long run.
That was something we kind of discovered through our years of business, that if you need feedback, like we're a service-based business primarily, when we need feedback, just go ask your clients, ask them what they like about your services, what's not working. And if you have new ideas, ask them if it's something that would appeal to them before you spend all that time and resources developing something. Get an inside look.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, to have a group of 5 customers or whatever and get them on a Zoom call and buy them all lunch or something and get their, well, what could we be doing better? What do you think? What do you, and it's amazing. They'll tell you, well, I go to this company and, you nickel and dime me with every charge. We heard that one time. Well, you nickel and dime us with every charge. Like, we do? Well, they just give me one flat fee. And then we went to another customer and he said, we hate one flat fee. We want it all broken out so we see exactly what we're getting paid for. And we're like, okay, what do we do? So, they were both kind of substantial in size. So the one wants their bids done one way, we do it their way. And the other wants their bids done the other way, and we make it simpler the other way, So, and that's kind of, that's the on-the-job training, I mean, you can have as much education as you want, but, some of it is, at the end of the day, I always think it's just people doing business with people, and I've always kind of learned that and felt that and said that, at the end of the day, it's, being able to call someone and say, hey, we got you taken care of. And it doesn't matter the clauses in the contract. If they know they're taken care of, no matter what, I find that the contracts and whatnot are almost like, my attorney friends will kill me on this, but I just don't think if you do the right thing, like, the contracts are there if you don't do the right thing. If you do the right thing, you don't have to worry about it.
Right. So your organization must have like databases just filled with people ready to take surveys and participate in different groups.
Right.
Is that, I guess, like, how many people do you have in your network ready to go?
Yeah, we have a substantial amount. I think, I'm not sure the exact number. We have hundreds of thousands of people who sign up for our studies. So, and they're purely vetted. Like, if you go to cloud.focusinsight.com, you put in your information, and then when we see a study that applies to you, you can make anywhere from 150 to 500 an hour, depending on the study and how narrow it is. The larger ones, you have to have, some sort of usually specialized field of knowledge, but, expert networks, focus groups, it's great because a lot of people do them. And once they do them, they're like, oh, that was pretty cool. Oh yeah. We had, I had someone I know who was a painting, painting contractor. We owned a substantial painting business for decades, and I had him do one. And he's only doing one out of a favor to me. He goes, I get called. I don't do these things. So he did one, and he loved it. He goes, oh man, they were talking about a one-day painting concept, and they want to come in and out, do everything in one day. And I think I know what it is. And so it's really kind of cool. So, yeah, to answer your question, I really think that, getting people's opinions. And that's where we've been so successful, is we've been getting people to jump in, give their opinions, and then they said, oh man, I want to do another one of these studies. These are great. So.
And I guess you mentioned, like, with the nurses, there's different groups of people with different expertise. Do they get paid different amounts, like based
100%.
on their expertise to participate?
For sure. Like, for example, if you talk about like a nurse, like you have a nurse and then you have, physician's assistant, and you have a doctor. I mean, depending on the specialized field and knowledge, they'll get paid more money because they have to.
Right.
So, sometimes we'll get, hey, we need CTOs, or we need chief information security officers, or we need CEOs of companies under $5 million in revenue. So they're all a different type of range of incentives. So they do vary across the board, as opposed to, hey, give us your opinion on cat food, right? And it's like simple, so that pays lower. So they're all across the board, but it's a great way to get paid for your opinions, to jump on the internet, fill out our questionnaire at cloud.focusinsight.com, get into our database, and then have a chance to make some extra discretionary income. So
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. How much time does it usually take to participate in one of these?
participate not long. I mean, once you sign up, you sign up to be in our database, and that's only probably a 5, maximum 10-minute process. We're gonna get you guys signed up by the end here, by the end of it. Cloud.focusinsight.com. But then after that, we will select you for a study. We'll screen you. And then the studies are anywhere from 1 to 2 hours. Sometimes they're more. It was funny. We did a story on wine one time. It was over the course of 3 weeks. And so we had to call a respondent and say, like, hey, you need to catch up. I'm like, okay, need to catch up. And then finally he said, you had me drinking wine for the past 2-3 nights. Like, I don't know if I can drink it the fourth. I'm like, oh, like we forgot, So we're like, well, you're only supposed to drink a glass. They're like, yeah, I know. But then it becomes 2, it becomes 3. And I'm like, oh, okay. So it's some funny respondent stories for sure.
Yeah. So if somebody wants to sign up and become a participant, how do they go about doing that?
They just go to our website and go to cloud, cloud.focusinsight.com, INSITE. So cloud.focusinsight.com. Sign up for our database, and we'll get you, when we find a study that's right for you, we'll let you know.
Awesome. Well, Jim, thanks again so much for coming on our show. And we got one more episode coming up, so stay tuned.
Can't wait.
Stories from the Top is your guide to successful business development. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, or find Edge of Cinema on YouTube. Stories from the Top is an Edge of Cinema production, hosted by Matthew Skura and Jeremy Schmidt. To learn more or get in touch, visit edgeofcinema.com/podcast.